both of you guys, I have to give you much respect, as I already do, for what you had to state concerning Coach Bowden's passing on, what was that, on Sunday, correct?
Sunday morning. Yeah.
Sunday morning.
We've made a promise here. We made a promise here. We're not going to cry. We're going to have a good hour. We're going to reflect. We're going to remember. But Logan, do not cry.
I will not. Sunday was good enough, I think. We'll see that. I think on September 5th, though, everybody in that stadium is going to not be able to keep that promise, though.
They're going to do something, and it's going to make me tear up like a little wuss.
Yeah.
That picture, Logan, that you posted, that is something else. That is just, man, that has got to be like a treasured family heirloom.
It is.
You were a cute kid. What the hell happened?
I don't know what happened. I still think I've got the cowlick for sure. That's never going to go away. But that was definitely one of my favorite pictures that I have. It's right above, was on top of my bed. And, I've taken a few photos of it now. But that was, I believe, at one of the few camps that my dad would take me to. And, he talked very highly of Coach Bowden. So I got to become a little bit older and actually work and do a few things with Coach. It was just, it's just, I literally grew up with like an additional grandfather. My grandpa, who I'm living in their house now, he actually worked with Coach and actually was the one that hired Coach Bowden. So that's always been a story inside of our family on reunions and such, because we're always talking football. But he was the director of personnel at Florida State. He worked inside the Doak Campbell Stadium on the clock there on the side, and was actually in on the hiring of Bobby Bowden. And they were always close, and he traveled with the team. And Coach Bowden has always treated our family great, and it just was awesome looking back now at all the stories. I think Sunday I just laid in bed and just sat there on my phone reading all the phenomenal stories that people had with him, and going back and looking at film, looking at the funny commercials, and just what kind of a man he is, and seeing all the fan bases, the rivalries that are out there, and the respect that they have for him has been phenomenal, and it's just going to continue until for a long while.
Logan, when I saw you on Twitter on Saturday, you wrote prayers for Coach. There's a couple lines of prayers for Coach, and that's when I kind of realized, okay, unfortunately, we're about to reach that time right there, and it was there. Kind of going along with what Logan said, I was fine until one of the people I used to work with at one of the stations in Tallahassee sent us a picture from, we used to do the Bobby Bowden call-in show on Thursdays, used to be done at our station. And everything was going, everything's fine, we're doing work and whatnot. And then they sent a picture of all of us together. We took before the last one of the 2005 season. And that I'm like you, Logan, that just got me. And it was all there.
Yeah. There's different things for everybody, I think. It's just something that you connect the best well with him, and it just hits you kind of out of nowhere a little bit. And it's good, though. I'm glad it did for me, because we had been, like you said, Jason, there's just been some things, we obviously when it became public that he was dealing, with some medical things, and you just knew it was going to be close. But, it's just tough whenever it actually happens, and it still doesn't feel real to me. And those kind of things, it takes a while, but it's just very tough. And I went yesterday to the stadium and got to be around the statue of him right there in front of the Moore, and you just get that feeling, and it always is that feeling whenever you're around that statue. It's beautiful, it's amazing, but seeing the flowers there, and people coming by and leaving, and spending a little bit of time there one-on-one felt special. And he's just treated everybody like a son, which was crazy. I'd be over there taking photos for Garnet and Gold where I used to work, and he'd sit there for 2-3 hours. He'll wait until the line's completely gone, but he'll make sure everybody's getting pictures taken. He'll hold on to a baby, kiss him on the cheek. It's just how he ran as a man.
He signed that spear. I brought the spear in 2018. He was doing signing before the spring game, brought the spear in, and he goes, "You want me to sign this?" I go, "Absolutely, sir." And he signed the head of the spear right there.
Was that in Garnet and Gold?
That was the Garnet and Gold on Pensacola.
Pensacola Street, yeah. That's I was there. It was before. I think it was a spring game.
There was some guy who smelled like Natty Light and was working.
Yeah, that was right. It was under my breath. Yeah. I can't believe you didn't say hi to me, Jason. I guess we didn't know each other then.
I didn't know who you were, Logan. Now
Yeah.
you're like the little brother my parents didn't have. But
Yeah.
on a serious question, we talk about it. My time with Bowden was, the 2 years I was in Tallahassee, working in Tallahassee, 4 years as a student, and then later on a couple times afterwards. You got a chance to experience not just Bobby Bowden, the FSU coach, but Bobby Bowden, the Tallahassee resident. You were around him. What did he mean to you? Both, we've talked about what he meant to the Florida State program, and we'll talk about what they should do to honor him. And I think we're both in the same boat. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. What did he mean to you as a whole? What did he mean to that city of Tallahassee as a whole?
Just genuine. I mean, you would see him out a few times the same way with Mickey Andrews, but you'll run by a Walmart right there on North Side, and everybody wants to take pictures of him because he is the legend here in town, and he's done so much for the community overall, building Tallahassee. I mean, Florida State at the time, him coming in and doing a lot of program building and created so many successful jobs for people. People need to be very thankful for what he did, but he was just being around him though at certain events, and then also being in a neighborhood close to ours where you could just go by and a little secret, but you could drop off anything that you wanted to get signed. You could drop it off at the backyard and on their little doorstep back there, and then he'd sign it and leave a note, and then you can come pick it up the next day. That's just kind of how it's just how he did it. And he loved taking care of anybody. And I also want to give my thoughts to also Miss Ann, because she also they were both a tag team force there, but she treated everyone very nicely. You never heard one bad thing about her, and she's a wonderful lady. And for Coach Bowden to do all that he did, there's a lot that she also had to go through. And I, like I said, the few times that I was able to be around her, she was sweet, and she treated my grandparents very nicely, and was just regular folk. But I love seeing all the recognition and just the little stories that are going around on Facebook of him and how he and all the different things that he touched people's hearts, and even people that never even met the man, just watched him on football. A lot of people, I love, the older men now, saying, I wasn't really watching football until I heard about Bobby Bowden, and now they're just FSU fans, and they're from Michigan, they're from
Ohio.
Or from Ohio. Yeah, somewhere from Ohio.
Ohio named Mark. I think his legal name is MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football.
Yeah,
his legal. That's his government name.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm an admirer. Always have been.
Yeah, on a serious note, Mark, and we talked about it a little bit before, but you didn't grow up close to the program like Logan and I. You're a college football fan. You grew up watching Florida State from an outsider's perspective. What is your view on Bobby from the college football fans' perspective?
I posted a video before, Jason, and I appreciate this once again. I'll thank you, Jason, for alerting me to the news Sunday morning, and then we got on a little bit later in that day. So, Jason, I appreciate you jumping on to share some memories. And again, to see Logan in that picture with Bobby Bowden on Sunday kind of made my day. That was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you this, that I'm somebody that is pretty much all or nothing. And as I communicated in our discussion, Jason, a few minutes ago before we came on, like once I became a football fan when I was 8 years old, I was the kid that instantly memorized all the stats in the newspaper and watched every game and would throw a fit if I had to go to bed at halftime of Monday Night Football or whatever. So I knew about Florida State. Like, I know people that were shocked and surprised when Florida State was playing in those first two Orange Bowls, because who's Florida State? Where did they come from? They don't belong here. They shouldn't be playing in this game. And I'd been tracking it since kind of like 77, in that range, like his second season, that I knew that they were on the rise. And even then, again, even though the information flow wasn't anything close to what it is now, I picked up on this guy. He is a gunslinger from the standpoint of, we'll take on the world and we're going to go anywhere. And this is how we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to we're going to have to climb the mountain and do it the hard way. And we'll go to Ohio State. We'll go to Nebraska. We know they're not coming here. They don't want to come here. We'll go to Notre Dame. We'll do it. And then watching the team play at a point in which there were just those few programs out there that became as sophisticated to a certain extent in the passing game as an NFL offense. And that was BYU. That was Miami, Florida State. That was about it at that point. That they played this exciting brand of football. And then once I got a little bit older and again, there was more interviews and that sort of thing available, and I got to see the personality. That's when I was sold. Was you combined the excellence on the field, and it's not this staunch kind of uppity football coach who doesn't have time for anyone or who's taking himself a little bit too seriously. It's this genuine person who loves life and loves his family and loves his community and loves the game and will do anything to promote the game and better the game, and just always had a smile on his face. And I was like, how did this guy become such a great football coach? Because he doesn't take himself seriously, and he's just jovial and just embraces life and loves life. And he was just an easy guy to admire and root for.
You just said exactly what I was going to. You are 100% correct, Mark. He was the last of the breed of coaches that were accessible. Coaches that like you said, didn't put the game above themselves. You know, I think to a certain extent, I mean, you were closer to like the Woody Hayes era at Ohio State, but he was more of the staunch, serious, type coach. Bobby was the last coach. Logan didn't talk about it because all the writers in the Tallahassee Democrat were constantly posting stuff about it over the course of this week. You could call Bobby, talk to Bobby. He'd give you the sound bites. He'd give you the quotes you need. Bobby Bowden's post-game press conferences were legendary. Bobby Bowden's Monday luncheon with the media was legendary. He would give us sound bites that were just phenomenal, and you do not see that anymore. Nick Saban is a great coach. Nick Saban is arguably one of the worst sound bites I've ever had in all my years of working in the media. Jimbo Fisher is a good coach, a very good coach. Is also not great with sound bites. He's good. He's better than Saban, I'll say that, but he's nowhere near the Bowden ballpark. Norvell's good. Manny Diaz is good. There's a couple out there that are good, but no one is at that Bowden level. And I don't think that you're going to have someone who's going to get to that level. And that I think is also the major loss in college football right now, is that college football lost arguably their most accessible figure.
Yeah, I think that's what, at least, you've got a coach with Norvell in town, now that he's trying to be that way. I think he's learned a little bit maybe from Bobby, but, now you're getting some features that Jimbo rarely, if not ever. I think there was just one feature of the strength and conditioning with Coach Vic that I remember there being a film of. Now, another outlet was able to go in there and do kind of a little piece on that. And then there's other things where allowing to interview players and kind of get inside the program a little bit, because it's getting to see, what these players are like, what they go through, their day-to-day, all that kind of stuff. And I think Norvell's allowing that if the players are ready for that. There's different opportunities that we're seeing that the media is allowed to do. But I mean, you're right. Bobby back then was a coach that gave you things to work with if you're a media member, and you just don't really see it as much anymore.
There's our guy, big game, James Coleman. James, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Of course, James blocked a lot of mean linebackers in his day at Florida State, 2002 through 2005. Played for Bobby Bowden, and of course had that connection that, again, with a ton of respect, Jason and I, again, went online, and I appreciate Jason's efforts there on Sunday. Had a lot of great things to say. And Logan, just the legacy of his family and their connection to Coach Bowden's enormous as well. James, you're one of the few that can say, hey, you strapped up the chin strap and you did a lot of what you did under Coach Bowden. So Your thoughts at this point?
I mean, I'm a world of difference before I was on Sunday, man. And even Sunday, the progression. I went from being very sad to not really understanding everybody, like, not everybody, but having experienced this death, right? And it's a close person to you. Everybody starts talking about how much they love the person and this and what he meant. And you become cynical sometimes. And it was selfish of me. But then when I started talking and I did a couple radio shows and I did some other things on Monday, it really helped decipher and, and understand, like, how great this man really was. And really what helped me with a lot of stuff is, when you get kids, your kids are the ones who really kind of put things in perspective for you. My son absolutely loves Coach Bowden. He's never met Coach Bowden before. He believes he's going to be coached by Coach Bowden one day, and all because of what I've said to him about Coach Bowden. So his experience with Coach Bowden is through me, and obviously Bobby influenced me tremendously. But a lot of people who never got a chance to meet him, their influence and their feelings were based upon people who knew him or what they were able to see from TV. And that just shows you how strong a legacy and how dynamic a man he was. And I've had to, just talking through it and talking about it, how privileged I am and how grateful I am to have played for a legend. There's only so many guys that we could say in college football are that iconic. And when you look at the landscape today, maybe there's two guys that are current coaches right now that people will probably look at in the same light. And it's not because the other coaches aren't talented. It's because the landscape won't let you. But you got Saban and probably Dabo. But outside of that, the money, the selfishness, the business, and I say selfishness, and I don't mean that in a negative way per se. I just think it's just the business of the sport. Even when I look at how when Bobby got moved out, I hated Jimbo Fisher. I wanted to harm Jimbo Fisher. That's how much I hated him. And it was because, and now when I look at it, Jimbo's a great coach. Jimbo's a good man for the most part. Jimbo had ambition, and that's just the way the business was. And Bobby was of the ilk of the handshake deal. Bobby's contract was supposed to be for life, man. And he was one of the first 2.5, I think he was $2.5 million a year when I was playing for him. And he didn't leave. 40 years at the same spot. And not just him. My position coach, Billy Sexton, who is arguably the greatest running back coach in the history of college football, when you look at what he's been able to do and the amount of guys who went to the NFL from his segment, I think if you look back to every year he coached, there wasn't a year when he didn't have a running back in the NFL. But I bring him up because Billy was there in the 80s. So my position coach was a pillar of stability. Mickey Andrews was a pillar of stability. Jimmy Higgins had been there 10 plus years. Jeff Bowden came through the program. These men who were coaching with him stayed. They stayed, man. And that's why you see, and that's the legacy. People talk about, and Bobby said, this is a Bobby quote too. People say kids change and the youth have changed, and kids and youth remain the same. It's the adults who have changed. Mm-hmm. Bobby, I knew Bobby was going to be there, and damn it, if they didn't fire him, my son, and he didn't die, my son probably could have been recruited by Bobby Bowden too. That's stability. That's legacy. That's loyalty and all these things that people preach that they use as just buzzword bingo culture. No, Bobby had all of those things because you knew he was going to be there. I shaved my head because Deion Sanders shaved his head. And what's for Ron Simmons shaved his head before that. Bobby Butler shaved his head before that. Like, there was a true tradition in the culture. But now you got guys, grown-ass men, who will go and tell a kid that, and fans too, because it's our fault too, that kid doesn't show loyalty when you just had a coach who just left other kids who he recruited for 4 years and said he was going to love them to death and see them graduate to come to your school. I don't know what that's like, man. That man came in my mother's living room and told me she was going to see me graduate. And you know what he did, damn it? He saw me graduate. That's leadership, that's legacy, that's showing you how it's supposed to be done. There ain't coaches like that no more. Coaches are just as selfish as the damn kids. Actually, more selfish. Because they're the only ones who's getting paid. That man never overpromised. He always over-delivered. And he never shoved anything down my throat. I went to church. I knew I was going to church twice a year. To a black church. Into a church that was hosted by Clint Purvis, who is another man who I'm grateful for as our team chaplain, because I would have never, like, that man helped walk me through this COVID situation. And he's the legacy of Coach Bowden. And in that black church, this is the funniest thing about this. Bobby was a 90-plus-year-old white man from Alabama. I don't need to know who the hell he voted for to know who the hell he voted for. I just put it like that. All I need to know is how he treated me, how he treated my family, how he treated other people around him. And there's not a person who's greater at that. But bigger than that, that man never changed or dumbed down who he was for other people. He was who he was. He didn't come to me and turn his hat backwards and sag his pants to try to relate to me. You know what he was? He was always that old man from Alabama. But you know what? He found these themes, and we connected through football. And we connected through me wanting to be a great man. And him wanting to make me a great man. I don't know if I said it on here, I've said it a lot, but like if people were really what they talked about in politics, or they really wanted to make America great again, or some of you Christians were, and I'm not bashing anybody because I'm not that, any of that. I don't necessarily know what I believe, but I know this. I believe whatever the hell I believe Bobby's wherever the hell he believed he was at. He's one of the few Christian men that I believe without a shadow of a doubt lived every aspect of his life. Some of the people who scream Christian, I don't want, and some of the people who said they were praying for me, I didn't want it. I told a couple of them, I don't believe your prayer goes past the roof. Now, Bobby, I want that prayer. Hell, I've seen the things I've seen on the football field where it's rained. Every piece of Tallahassee, Florida had rain, except for our practice field. Until period 24 was over. I have no idea how he did. All I know is he went up into that damn tower, and him and Guy were talking about something. Said, I just need you to hold this rain off. We really need to get this practice in because they won't give me an indoor practice facility. I kid you not, I've seen it. It was pouring down raining, and the sun was just on our 3 fields. It freaks you out.
James, quick question. You posted a lot of stuff on social media, just like Logan did. We all did. And you posted a lot of pictures of camps you did, things you did with Coach Bowden after you graduated. You talked about what Coach Bowden meant to you as a coach, giving you the path at Florida State, giving you a path to get that degree and whatnot. Talk about what Coach Bowden meant to you after you graduated. Talk about what he was like with the players once you graduate. Once you're no longer a player in his program, once you're no longer helping him win games, what was your relationship like with him in the 15 years after you finished playing?
It's wild. I'll put it like I'll back it up to 4 years when I was done. His last game was in Jacksonville at the Gator Bowl. I went to a practice, and Coach Bowden that year had been just roasted, man. You would have thought the man was senile. I thought I didn't know if he could walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. And this is before I got in media, and I learned how powerful media is and how it shapes everything, because I'm only seeing my coach or interacting with my coach through ESPN, through ABC, through all of these things. And I'm thinking like, man, I know what the other side of it is in his head because he talked to us so much about being afraid to retire because his idol was Bear Bryant, and Bear Bryant died right after he retired. So I'm sitting here thinking in my head like, damn, yeah, the old man ain't long for the world too much longer because the way they making him seem. But then I went to the practice, and to preface this and put it in context, and if you don't, just the way I talk, I don't mean anything by it, but my number was 36. You know how many black number 36s Coach Bowden has seen in his lifetime? Like, for me to think that he's going to recognize me is, you know, I'm not arrogant. I'm not that arrogant. I was a good player. I'm like, I want to introduce myself to Coach and make sure he jog his memory. He doesn't know anything. He's senile per ESPN. Hell, he probably think I'm Peter Boulware or something. I don't know. I walk up, and the first thing he said, and I have dreads now. Coley, is that you? And I'm like, huh? He's like, man. He's like, it's been about 4 years, hasn't it, sir? I said, boy, I sure could use a fullback like you right now. He's like, you got any eligibility? Then he asked me about my sister, who was a track athlete, freshman track athlete. He asked me about my mother. He remembered that I'm not from. He's like, what are you doing here in Jacksonville? You're from Tallahassee, ain't you? And just, I'm sitting here in my head like, how the hell does he remember this? Like, what the heck is going on? And just, like, that's that. And then it's coaches talk about an open door policy. And I believe Mike does. Mike Norvell has one. Like, I've utilized it. Me and Mike have an understanding. Our only problem is 3 and 6. Outside of that, I have no issues with Coach Norvell. And Coach Norvell understands the standard. I always feel like I got to tell people this. Bobby open door policy was so much that most people didn't even realize this. His number was in the white pages. Phone book. You could literally go look up Robert Bowden in the phone book. You call that number, and either him or Miss Ann are going to answer the phone. I got a chance to interview him. I picked up the phone and I called that number, and we set up the interview. He it's on my 36 Degrees YouTube page. There's 2 years consecutive interviews where he said something to me that I'm going to make sure, even though I want to be cremated, I'm going to make sure it's on my tombstone or whatever, wherever they put my ashes. Bobby Bowden told me on a YouTube recording that James wasn't no sissy. James would knock your head off 1 year, and then the next year he said, I've never known Coleman to back down from anything, and that's just the way he approaches life. Those are that you can't tell. Then he's also in that meeting. He told me I was a top 5 fullback he's ever had. Arguable. I argue with him against that. I think I was good. I won't say I was top 5.
Yeah, top 8.
We have some damn good fullbacks. But the point is that this man, he may not. Well, if you're a good player, he's gonna remember your name. But he may not remember your name. He remembers your face and what he does to everybody that he's ever encountered. He's gonna talk. He's gonna look. He's gonna keep until he remembers something that makes sure you know he's connected to you and he remembers who you are. And I don't have the energy to do that to everybody. I don't know kids I've coached, and I got paid handsomely to coach a lot of people. But this man, as I've said numerous times, what makes him different than everybody else is this. And this is the truth. Coaches get paid to win games, period. If you don't win games, you're going to get fired. The greats choose to focus on legacy and building people and building men and women with the understanding that if I do that the right way, winning games comes as a part of it. And I'm like I said, I'm blessed to have actually known him. He knows who I was. I got to play, and he was, I know who my father is. My father is a pretty decent he's better than my grandfathers were, which isn't, again, that's not a high bar, but he's doing better. I don't know who my grandfathers were. I think I have one that's alive, and he could walk by me today, and I wouldn't know who he is. But Bobby was like my father, that strong grandfather figure. And for the 4 most influential years of my adult life that carried me over to today, that if you like me, if you hate me, it's all because of what that man has did for me from my ages of 17 years old when I went to freshman two-a-days to when I was basically I was 22 years old when I graduated. It's all because of what he did. So the book bag drives, the feeding the community, the media presence, my knowledge of football, all these things were influenced directly or indirectly by him and the way that he lived his life. And I cried for 4 hours from 7 a.m. to about 11. And then I realized that how blessed I was. And I can't wait to go pay my respect on Saturday morning to the greatest coach of all time. And you know, that's about, and then see thousands of men from various demographics who are all influenced and are all impacting their respective communities in incredible ways. And I'm going to straight fan out because bigger than anything, I played it, I cover it, but I was a fan before I ever thought about coming to Florida State. And I can't wait to hear Charlie talk about his relationships, Kez McCorvey talk about his relationships. I hope Shade Tree is there. I hope Bar None is there. I want to be able to see these guys. And the only thing I'm sad about is that, you know, we only get +1 because I really want to sneak my son. I might sneak my son in there anyway and just give him my iPad so he doesn't get too bored. But, man, it's going to be the who is who of college football. Not Florida State, of college football coming to talk about the greatest of all time. And I can say I played for the greatest of all time. Very few people can say that.
And James hit the nail on the head. And James used the word legacy. And I'm going to say it like this. I said it on Sunday. I'm going to say it again. I'm pretty sure James is going to agree with me. I'm pretty sure Logan's going to agree with me. I'm pretty sure I can even get Mark to agree with me on this one. The name of that stadium needs to be Bobby Bowden Stadium. I would say before the Notre Dame game. I don't get why it hasn't. The wheels have not started in motion. John Thrasher, you're still in charge. Board of Trustees, Board of Directors, guys, you got to make it happen. We're less than what? Our first game is September 5th. So we're about just over 3 weeks away, about between three and a half weeks away. You can make it happen. This can happen, guys. And if you're going to honor who I would say is the greatest coach of all time, definitely on the Mount Rushmore of college football coaches, that name of that stadium should be Bobby Bowden Stadium. If you want to save it for the Notre Dame game, do a big unveiling, do it that night, that's fine. But the wheels need to be in motion. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. John Thrasher, if you have any courage on your way out, this is what you need to do right now. There's
a simple reason why I would agree with you, Jason. And of course, I've got a little different perspective than everybody else here. And it's not a more legitimate, it's a least legitimate perspective, but it's a different one, is that if not for Bobby Bowden, nobody outside of Tallahassee would give a damn about Florida State football. Mm-hmm. Without Bobby Bowden, we wouldn't have done 119 of these shows. There's no question. The football program would not be at the prominence that it is anywhere close to it. So none of this attention would be given to Florida State. And Florida State football wouldn't be known from coast to coast without Bobby Bowden.